guest has headlined in every major nightclub in the country. He's appeared in a number of really great movies, including The Great Race, Captain Newman, M.D. And if by chance you haven't caught him in a nightclub or seen him in a movie, I'm sure you've seen him on his weekly television show, F Troop. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry Storch.
So good to get off my feet and sit down. They're killing me. I've been on them all day.
You look good. I like the sideburns.
Oh, well, thank you, Andy. I have to let them grow for a television series I'm doing, but I'll tell you a little secret, Andy. I let them grow long even when I'm not working. Fools my friends, they think I'm working.
You gotta remember that.
Well, how can you forget? You wore them for years.
Oh, that's right. I didn't know you knew that. Larry, I've seen a lot of your shows. And I must say that every one that I see, you look like you're really enjoying it, having a good time.
Well, I am, Andy. I've loved Westerns ever since I was a kid, you know, and whenever I get some time off in the summers, I work rodeos, and you really meet some wonderful Western characters, like two old fellows in Wyoming, and they were sitting in front of one of the stables, and I overheard them talking, and these are the kind of guys I like. And one guy said to the other one, he said, "Come here, Jesse." He said, "Jesse, boy," he said, "you remember when we had that blizzard back here in 17 and snow piled that high?" He said, "and that carnival show got stranded here, don't you?" He said, "Well, folks around these parts don't know it." He said, "but when that carnival show got stranded here," he said, "I had a rendezvous with that little striptease dancer, Peaches Latour. Cheese and crackers, what a woman. Deuce the strain was greatest." He says, "Well, the night of that big blizzard," he said, "I took little Peaches out on a sleigh ride. That's what I'd done." The other guy says, "Oh, gosh, you didn't." He said, "Heck, I didn't." He said, "And then when we come to a nice, cozy spot," he said, I stopped that sleigh and I whipped out a Jimmy John or some prime squeeze and had ourselves a little touch of red eye." The other guy says, "Oh, gosh, you didn't." He says, "Heck, I didn't." He says, "Then you know, Jesse, when I was feeling right cozy, you know what I'd done? I put my hand on that little lady's knee." The other guy says, "Oh, gosh, what did it feel like?" He said, "Well, I can't rightly tell you that, Jesse. I had my mittens on."
You know, I've known Larry a long time because when my brothers and I first opened in Las Vegas with Kay Thompson, this was many years ago, we opened at the El Rancho Hotel, and it's no longer there, but Larry was the comedian on the bill. And he does, I think, the greatest impressions I've ever heard.
Thank you.
We have such a great ear, you know, for languages and dialects. Why don't you do some of them? I know, the one that I love, the English one that you did on the stage.
Oh, well, the English dialect has always been a favorite of mine. And these two English fellows are at the club, and they're both getting quite smashed, you see, and having dinner. And each one is convinced that the English language is the only language in the world. And so this one fellow said to the other, he said, "You know," he said, "really," he said, "the English language cuts the mustard, doesn't it?" He said, "I mean, it really tells you what's going on, doesn't it?" And then he picked up the butter knife and he said, "There." He said, "Is it a little simple knife, eh?" He said, "Well, now in French, it's called a couteau. Is it? Couteau. And in German, it's called a mesa. But in English, it's called a knife, which, of course, is exactly what it is."
How about the French one?
French. Well, you know, my wife and I, we were in Paris, and it must be admitted that Paris is a beautiful city, you know. I mean, Le Champs-Élysées and La Boulevard de Saint-Michel, La Sorbonne, three of the swellest guys you'd ever want to know. But the language is beautiful to listen to, especially if you can't get around in French. It just sounds so good. Like you'd walk into a little dinky restaurant in Paris, Andy, and there are signs all over the place in French, Nachement. And the signs say something like, "Avant de partir ici, il faut la belle main." Isn't that pretty? Yeah. "Avant de partir ici, monsieur, il faut la belle main." Pretty? And look how it sounds in English. "All employees must wash hands on the way back to the kitchen." It sounds good. There.
Do some more. You do them.
All right, well, This Frenchman is pushing the baby carriage in the park, and the sun is shining and the birds are singing, but the baby, he cries, he screams, he bellows, he kicks. And the Frenchman says to the baby, there, Pierre, Bernard, calm yourself, Bernard. There, Bernard, it is not bad as all that, Bernard. Smile, Bernard, smile, Bernard. And the woman came over and said, well, you really know how to take care of children. The little baby's name is Bernard. And the Frenchman said, no, madame, the baby's name is Andre. I am Bernard. And then, right next door to the French, we have the German. And for sheer explosive power, there is nothing that can... I've always thought, Andy, that the German language was hatched from the mouth of the cannon. Because the German language can start a fight in an empty room. Even the word for a private in the German army, wait till you hear this one. He sounds like he owns the whole army. An Aubergefreiter. That's a private. I'm afraid to tell you what a general sounds like. It'd break all the windows in Hollywood, you know. Well, all right, here you go. Here, this is something in German. Müde bin ich, geh zur Ruhe, schließe meine Augen zu. Guten Himmel halte wach, gib uns seine gute Nacht. And that's a prayer. Well, of course, I've always been very fond of the Scotch, you know, anybody. Oh, I ought to tell you about Angus, who came back to Glasgow from Hollywood, and his friend Sandy said to him, what are they like over there, Angus? And Angus said, they're a queer lot in Hollywood, and that's the truth, Sandy. 4 o'clock in the morning, a screaming and a kicking and a pounding at my door. And the other fellow said, well, what do you do, Angus? He said, I didn't do anything. I just went on quietly playing my bagpipes.
They're such great stories, isn't it?
You know, I tell you, Andy, one accent that really kills me, the one that I really am fascinated with, is the West Indian dialect. It has such a lilt to it, and it's so musical, you know what I mean.
It's perfect.
Well, listen, may I borrow the orchestra?
You want to? Yes.
Okay. Is there a guitar in the house?
He's been to Jamaica, I think.
I can tell that boy. Is there the scratcher? Right on time. Bless you, child. Are the drums there? Everybody cooking on 4. Oh, I gotta tell you this, Andy, before we... When I was in Jamaica, I was going to dive into the water, and I said to one of the islanders, are there any dangerous barracuda where I'm going to swim? And the islander said to me, don't worry your head about that, child. The sharks keep them away. Down the way where the nights are gay and the sun shines gaily on the mountain top, I took a trip on a sailing ship. When I reached Jamaica, I made a stop. But I'm sad to say, I'm on my way. I won't be back, man, for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston town. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a girl in Kingston town.
Hey, Larry Storch. Now a word from our friends at Bristol Mine. Don't go away.